right on a keeper, up across the 15, cuts left at the 20, lots of room at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
And with that, we're in here for another episode of Believe in Kentucky. I'm trying to get a little smoother with all that.
That's the intro of this show now, man.
Jalen Whitlow slicing through Alabama State with the voice, Tom Leach on the call. Jalen Whitlow, Aaron Gershon, Benny Hardy. Jalen Whitlow, former UK quarterback. Aaron Gershon with the cat's paws doing his thing. Just came from Pro Day. That's how you know this man knows how to handle the beat. It's juggle time, football and basketball.
Did both today, man.
On it.
All three, trifecta, football practice, basketball, pro day, podcast. We got it all going.
Ooh-wee. Unbelievable. Y'all check out Aaron's content at the Cat's Paws. Jay Witt from UKQB, coaching up youngsters, helping them hone the QB craft. How's everybody doing?
Good, man.
All right.
Yeah, doing better than the folks who have to watch tape this week over at the Craft Center football building, but I'm doing all right.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, things got ugly in a hurry. And look, with Georgia's Georgia, but I don't. It's safe to say I don't think any of us saw that coming.
No, I think we all at least thought they'd kind of cover that 14-point spread and keep it interesting. I think I put 27-17 in all the prediction stuff I had to write. So I didn't foresee that, but I think it was a combination of two things to kind of simply put it. Kentucky hurt itself early when they had chances in Georgia territory, the unsportsmanlike penalty on Jagger Burton, a holding on Jagger Burton, the Devin Leary just completely missing Tavion Robinson on what probably would have been a touchdown. Just can't have missed opportunities against the best team in the country. And then the other thing, of course, is you got to just tip your cap to the boys down there in Athens. They played their best game of the season yet. They showed why they're the two-time defending champions. They probably had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, knowing that people are giving us crap for starting slow and we're not the same team, blah, blah, blah. And they shut everyone up. And I think I said it last week. The one thing I didn't understand with Georgia and people kind of saying, oh, they're down because of this is Carson Beck. People were like, oh, he's not Seston Bennett. Well, let me tell you, Carson Beck was the 4-star recruit. Seston Bennett's the former walk-on. It was a great story. Carson Beck has been sitting back and watching Seston Bennett the last 3 years and learning from Seston Bennett and getting better every year. And now he's getting his opportunity. And he had a 73% completion rate with only 2 picks going into this game. He threw a pick, but every other throw he made was basically perfect, and he played out of his mind. Kentucky's defense, obviously, I think made it a little easier than it needed to be, but still, I mean, he played a heck of a game. He's a heck of a quarterback, and that's a Georgia team that I expect to probably be hosting another national championship trophy in the next few months here.
Yeah, everything he said. No, I think, I just, I don't know, man. As I was watching the game, I was thoroughly kind of because I had Kentucky, competing and potentially having the chance to win it at the end. Obviously, that was not the case from the kickoff. I just think, they got outclassed in every facet. Out physical. It just looked like it almost looked too easy early on Kentucky's defense, which is it's weird to say, but they were hitting on all cylinders, man. And you got to kind of tip your cap to them because that's a championship team, and they showed it again. Like I said, I'd be shocked if they didn't win it this year because I only think that they will get better with the injuries that they have. Carson Beck continue to get experience. The offense, new coordinator, continue to, gain traction. Defense continue to mesh. I think their best football is ahead of them. To be honest with you.
Kentucky's offense moved the ball early. They were in they were in Georgia territory. The first 3 drives of the game. Again, I'm not going to go through the plays that hurt them, but they even scored a touchdown early. And I thought Ray Davis early had a couple of really good runs. And it wasn't like defensively, Georgia was the 2021 defense with 85 starters, 85 NFL players. Like, it was just, they were able to move the ball, but then you're playing from behind. Devin Leary's going through struggles and made things impossible to even compete. And again, I think I really, at the end of the day, I'm not too worried about this defense. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Georgia there. Kentucky didn't have their best game. You trust that the first 5 games tell a better story than the one against Georgia. But the worry is in the passing game with the offense. I think that's the takeaway you have from that if you're going to be worried about prolonged issues, because I think there's too much talent on this defense to have that happen many times again, if at all again. I'm not too worried about them, but man, the passing game, there were throws that if you make them, it's at least a ball game. And there are some catches Tavion Robinson dropped that, especially the one early where, again, it could be a ball game. And even with all that said, man, you get it to 21-7 with the Caddis touchdown. And if you get one stop and score again before halftime, it's 21-14, and at least you're showing up and looking to compete. And Kentucky could not get that stop, and things, fell off the rails late in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stoops has, and you saw it on the broadcast. After Leary's missed, you saw him talking to him. He said it in the post game. Said he doesn't do it often. Did he say anything to you coming off the sideline, Jay?
I was dying to hear this from him.
Ever say just throw it? Or any kind.
He would have had a lot of reasons to. But no, I don't. The crazy thing is, that's why you remember I sent the text in the group on Saturday, because as bad as it was, back in 2013, man, he hardly ever said anything to me that way, like that. Right. I could tell he really wanted this one. This would have been, even if they, there's no moral victories, but even if they lose the game by 3 points or 6 points,
even do what they did last year.
Yeah, you kind of you know that your program is moving in the right direction. This was a program defining loss to the fact that, yes, you've come a long way, but you still have a really long way to go. To get to that point. But I'm sure he has said some things to me. We, like I said, we had a lot of reasons to get talked to on the sideline. But I don't remember him pulling me, like that, during the game. I don't remember that. So when I saw it, I was shocked, because he typically don't do that. He has a good feel for when and when not to say things and who to say things to. Mm-hmm. He has a real good feel for that type of stuff. A lot of coaches don't have that natural feel. He has it, and he knows kind of what to say and who to say it to at the right time. So that was shocking. I remember watching the people I was watching the game with. I spoke to him about that. I was like, man, that's, for him to do that, that's a telltale sign that, he's fed up with something, or he really wanted that game, which he should. Sure. Like I said, you can, you mess around and win that game. I mean, you are in a new stratosphere, in college football. So, he feel like it's a missed opportunity. He feel like this should have been the year that they had a real opportunity to compete and potentially win the game, which everybody thought so, though. Everybody thought the same thing.
At least a shot, man. At least a shot.
I was bragging to people saying, hey, you better watch that Kentucky-Georgia game tonight. I was kind of, with our coaches and people that I work with and whatnot. And I was actually shocked to see what happened. I really was. But, it kind of, you play like that, you make mistakes, the mistakes that they made, the missed throw is one thing. But Jagger Burton, call it what it is. That's egregious.
Ridiculous.
So those are losing plays. That's losing football, is what that is. The drops the drops are losing football. It's hard to get the ball to a guy, and when you get the ball to a guy and he's open and the ball hits both his hands and he drops the ball against a team like that, you don't have, as a player, I'm sure they went to the sideline like, we don't have much chance to win this game with those things happening. And the score showed it, man, because it got out of hand real fast when you're playing in that stadium at night against that type of talent. It can really look bad if you're not making plays on third down and making crucial plays, and if you're getting penalties and you're turning the ball over, it's not going to work out for you. So,
yeah, and we said it last week that the most legitimate chance in a long time to go down there, and we saw 16-6 in Lexington last year with a Kentucky team that wasn't as good as this one. We saw 30-13 2 years ago. We saw 14-3 a couple years ago. We saw them year by year go toe to toe with Georgia, prove that they could. We also said that we know Georgia started off slow against South Carolina, 14-3. Barely got out of Auburn alive.
17-17 in the first quarter was their score.
It's a rivalry game. Throw the records out. Auburn's going to be fired up, and so Auburn's going to play above their heads. We saw that. We also said last week that we know that Georgia knows that Georgia's been sluggish. We know that Georgia knows that they're going to be trying to address it. Kirby's been on those guys to get out of the gates and start quick. We knew that was possible as well. Sure. And, Kentucky just weather the storm or take that punch when the champion shows up, and they weren't able to do it. And Georgia just said, not today. Kentucky just happened to be next, and that's who they took it out on. But Georgia was like, hey, not today, y'all. And we felt the wrath.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not excusing this game by any means. The performance was
you can't.
Right. But I am not putting too much stock in it for where I think this means Kentucky's season is going to go. I think I know in my record prediction, and we all went through it on this podcast. I think all of us had 5-1, if I'm not mistaken. I think we all said at this point they'd be 5-1, and the loss would be Georgia. And if I would go through the rest of my colleagues on the beat, fans, I feel like it's kind of a consensus, like 5-1. Maybe the pessimistic fan said 4-2 with a loss to Florida. Maybe the crazy oh my God, this team's good, winning it all, had 6-0. But for the most part, 5-1 was the consensus prediction. And I think that you're still, obviously you're not going to probably win the SEC East. That stinks. But your big goals of maybe getting to a New Year's Six game, they're still out there. Your chance of another 10-win season, it's still out there. There's still a lot to play for. You still have Missouri at home. You have Tennessee at home. You have another opportunity. I'm not predicting them to win, but another big marquee game opportunity at home on Senior Day against Bama. There's a chance to get revenge on South Carolina, Tennessee. I mean, there's a lot to play for still on this schedule, and I still think this team defensively is deeper than it has been maybe in the whole Stoops era. I still think at least offensively, there's a lot to be desired. I think the running game is very solid, and they're going to be able to run the football. And I think Kenneth Horsey is going to be back this week, which is huge. And it also, not to continue to pile up on him, but it gets Jagger Burton out of the lineup and lets him kind of work on his game off on the practice field and earn his way back into the rotation here. So I still think there's a lot of good things that could happen to this team, but they're going to have to prove they can get off the mat, because one thing that has been an Achilles heel as Stoops has tried to get this thing to the next level is they've struggled after losses. I mean, last year they let the one turn into two when they fell to Ole Miss. Then they come home, they lose to South Carolina. You did have the Levis injury, but still probably could have won that game. And then 2 years ago, you have that game in Athens, and they lose 3 in a row. They lose down in Starkville, and they lose to Tennessee. So you can't let one turn into two. You got to turn the page, because if you go into the bye week 6-1, you got to feel pretty damn good about yourself. You're already bowl eligible, and you're taking a break already. I mean, there's still a lot of good that could happen out of this season, but that was just a reminder, man, that as much progress as Kentucky made, Georgia is, as Mark Stoops said today, they're Mount Everest. You can get over humps, but getting over Mount Everest is going to take a lot. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, you do. And you want to see, lights on you, big stage at Georgia.
Yeah.
Last year at Tennessee, 44-6, lose that by 38 also, night game, prime time. So you want to see them a better showing when you have, quote unquote, every game's a big game, but when you have the big game kind of on that stage, you want to see a better showing than what we've seen. The 30-13 loss to Georgia was, people came away with that. That was a good showing. Levis stood in there.
Right.
You could walk away, at least proud that you gave it all and you fought and you battled and you didn't get blown out the field. Tennessee last year down there at Georgia this past Saturday, and it's just when it gets away from you and just snowballs, that's kind of deflating, from, as a program, of course the fans are going to be disgruntled, but that's a kick in the gut to all the players and coaches and everybody that's real close to the program.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I think the first thing, when that happened, the first thing that coaches think about when they get off the field is we're on a national stage and recruits saw us get beat.
Yeah.
It's just not good for recruiting. It's not good for, the brand, at the end of the day, because you're doing everything to give the brand the opportunity to play on that stage, which that used to not be the case. Now you get on those stages and you've earned the right to be on those stages, but now the next step is to perform on those stages. I think that's the next step. So, that's the biggest thing. The brand takes a hit in the sense of recruiting. You got kids watching the games, and it just don't look good when you're getting blown out on national TV, on primetime national TV at that. So that's the hit. However, I do think this team is still really good. I do think this team still has, like I said, a lot to play for. You can still get some payback. Big payback with South Carolina. You can go James Brown on Tennessee, get some big payback.
Get some freaking momentum in that series.
Yeah. I mean, you can really kind of, which I think they will beat Tennessee this year. I really believe that. At home,
talk about best opportunity. This is it again.
Yeah, I don't think Tennessee. Now, I do think this game Saturday, I know we'll get to it, but I think this game is going to be a good one. I do think Missouri can play some offense, man. Defense not bad either.
Run defense,
yeah.
Not the secondary.
Yeah, defense can play. I love what they do. On offense. The quarterback's playing really well. They have some weapons at receiver. I don't know how Missouri gets them, but they always have.
Yeah, they do.
One or two guys at receiver that can play. So I think this is going to be interesting. I do think Kentucky has the upper hand. I do think Kentucky's the better team. I think Kentucky got the home field advantage. But I do think Missouri is also a program that's fighting, scratching, and clawing to get some relevance as well.
They hate UK.
Yeah, it has become. It has become even. You kind of got a sense of that even when I was at Kentucky. It was like it always felt like Missouri game was like a rivalry for whatever reason. Yeah. And I don't know why, but it always felt like this game was like, I don't know, like it was bigger than the others. Obviously not Tennessee and Louisville, but it felt like, the Missouri game was always big.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Missouri here a little bit with some fellow Believe Podcast Network hosts. They cover Missouri. The podcast is called The Unwritten Rule. Follow them on Twitter at Believe Unwritten, BLEAV Unwritten. We got Kenny Van Doren backstage right now. Going to bring him on. They talk all things Mizzou. We were just getting to that right now, so we'll just keep the conversation going and welcome Kenny in. Kenny, man, welcome to Believe in Kentucky. We got Jack Knowlton coming in as well. Both of you guys are 2/3 of The Unwritten Rule. So we appreciate y'all taking time to hop on here and talk a little UK Mizzou. How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, doing well. Feels like we just talked to you a few minutes ago. So that's what we did. So it's good to talk to you again.
Ready to rehash it out.
Yeah. And we got Aaron Gershon, who covers Kentucky for the Cats Paws, Jalen Whitlow from UK quarterback, who was just talking about how the vibe was when he was playing Mizzou just a few short years ago. We talked about that when I was on y'all's podcast about the rivalry and from y'all's perspective. So, man, Jalen, just talk about what you were just getting ready to say before the fellas came on.
Yeah, what I was saying, it always felt like, and it wasn't. I don't know if rivalry was the word, but obviously you got Tennessee and Louisville, big rivals. But it always felt like Mizzou was like the game always felt super intense and important, and I felt a lot of tension between the two teams. I don't know why. It was weird because Mizzou was new to the league. Mizzou was new to the SEC, but whenever we played Mizzou, man, it was always a lot of tension. I never forget what 2012. I mean, pregame, I think we had some guys get ready to throw blows out there, man. I'll never forget that. I was like, man, is this a rivalry game? Is this something I don't know about? But it always felt like that. I don't know why it is, man. But
that was the first SEC game between you guys because that was their first year in the conference.
Yep. 22. It was the first year. I think who was the quarterback? Was it Franklin?
I think it should.
Yeah,
it would have been.
I'll get it right now for you.
Yeah, we can research it.
He's quick, man.
Yeah, it was Franklin.
Yeah. It was Franklin. Franklin was quarterback, and they went the next year.
Colin Berkstresser was the starter against y'all.
Oh, that's right. That is right. That is right. That's right. Because
he did not do anything. He was 10 for 18 with 2 picks and 71 yards.
That's 2012.
That's 2012. Yeah, because you started. Did you start or just lead him in passing? Yeah, you started.
Yeah. The next year I think it was Franklin.
But he played in that game, Franklin. He just didn't start.
Yeah, and it just always felt like that. It was always cold outside when we played them. We always played them at noon. It always felt like some tension. Now, obviously, after that, you go 2015, 2016, 2017. You had a couple tight games in there. What game was it? The 2018 Kentucky one.
That was the CJ. So 2018 was the CJ Conrad game, where the one on the on-time down, and then last year was the Colin Goodfellow punt. That was hilarious.
The 2018, I thought, took the game to another level.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what Martez Manuel told me at SEC Media Days last year. It was kind of what sparked the hit because he was on his official visit that day, and that's what led to that big whole quote about hitting the blue and white and kind of because I didn't think anything of it being a rivalry until he said any of that. And then the Kentucky guys, I kind of went back to, I was talking with one of the players just off the record, and he was like, I couldn't believe you said that. Like, we don't feel any of that. So, but when you're in Missouri's place, I understand it because there have been a lot of close games. There's been some controversial calls, and Missouri's unfortunately for that side has been on the wrong side of them.
So let's get y'all's perspective on that side of things, y'all side of the ledger, and
it's kind of how you guys like both perfectly described. It's almost weird because obviously it isn't a traditional rivalry like Vinny was saying, some of Kentucky's rivals when he came on our show, but it's just, it's like a weird animosity that I feel like the losing team always feels a bit more. And that has been Mizzou for sure in recent seasons. And there's just been some excruciating games on both sides. And that just adds fuel to it. And so I think we, at least on our show, kind of embrace it. It makes the Kentucky game have a lot more meaning, even when these teams aren't ranked or close to ranked like they both are this year. So there's even higher stakes this time around. But it's like there's a tension, there's a weird tension there that the players feel. And obviously in the end everyone wants to win. So it's just a fun just weird mix that happens, whether it's at Kroger Field or in Memorial Stadium. It's just a fun blend to watch, and weird stuff always happens. And I have expectation that something strange will happen, whether it's more disconcerting signals. I don't know.
I think it's supposed to rain too, so there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Aaron, I'm glad you brought up the Martez Manuel quote. Even last year when I was covering the football team, like he was like, "Okay, give me a second, I want to get into this," and he like went on. He was like a 5-minute answer about how he doesn't like Kentucky and other guys. Isaiah McGuire, who's now in the NFL. We're talking about
that's
Vinny.
right.
He was the other guy that was there. Darius Robinson, who's still with the team, one of the defensive ends now.
I talked to him at media day this year. Yeah,
exactly. So there's still guys there that were at when DeMarcus Stacey was called for the defensive pass interference, and they're like, this is kind of BS to us, but maybe they saw something that no one else did. But it feels like Mizzou and Kentucky have been kind of like those middle of the road teams in the SEC as well, kind of more on an even playing field, and that's why there's been a lot closer games. A game that just slips my mind is that 2020 game. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was on like Halloween in Columbia.
Year,
it was a COVID season. Well, that one kind of just slips my mind. Mizzou won that 20-10, but you can expect some tight games with both these programs. We talked about it on our show. It's like the flip of, coming into the year, Kentucky's offense looked like a threat with so many of these transfers, Ray Davis in that backfield. It looks like their defense is a little bit better. On the flip side, Mizzou coming in this year, the defense was the talk of the town. The offense looks unstoppable compared to what it was last season. So it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a tight one, like everyone else is thinking.
Absolutely. So y'all got Mizzou questions, AG, Jalen, y'all far away. And
yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is obviously the quarterback, Brady Cook, has played really well this year. He did not play very well last year. He obviously, he comes into week 3, and he's getting booed in introductions. What do you think has kind of been the biggest thing that's clicked for him? Because when I saw him, when I covered the game at Mizzou last year, I thought from a mobility perspective, he did some good things, but the arm talent, and it just seems like some things were lacking, but he's put it together this year.
It's a combination to me of health and just maturity. Last season, he played through a shoulder injury that not many people knew about until the end of the year. Got hurt in that Kansas State game and was just playing through a torn labrum. He had the surgery in the offseason. Coming into his second year as a starting quarterback in the SEC, it's just he's confident. He's a different guy on the field. He's a leader this year. He was voted a captain the last 2 seasons, but he gets on his guys. He's more vocal this year. You're seeing the arm just explode. And I think one of the big things is that Drinkwitz handed off the play calling. Kirby Moore coming over from Fresno State as the OC. It was a lot on Drinkwitz being the quarterback's coach from the OC to the head coach. It was a lot he was trying to balance with Butch Handum going to Boise State. Kind of opened an opportunity there. And, he saw it, I need to get an OC in here. They're really using everything right. With Theo Weiss also in that offense now, him and Luther Burden, they are really controlling the air game for Brady Cook. Interesting enough for Brady Cook, his legs were like his big thing last year. This year, he's kind of battling a knee injury that he suffered against Memphis. He's getting a little bit more into that, but something to always look out for is that with Brady Cook, Drinkwitz's offense, Kirby Moore's offense asks for the quarterback to get 2 first downs with his legs. And with Brady Cook getting a little bit more mobility, getting his knee back better, maybe we could see him break out a couple more runs.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny hit on all the points. The main thing I've noticed definitely is scheme. This offense just looks, it's night and day from what it was last season. I don't think that can really it can't go unnoticed. And yes, it helps a lot that Brady Cook has the weapons that he's got, especially in a guy like Luther Burden. But yeah, he's just a winner. I mean, like he said it himself, he heard the boos before that Kansas State game. He acknowledged them. It's been his dream. He grew up in St. Louis. All he wanted to do was play quarterback for Mizzou. And, he wants the fans behind him, and they've gotten behind him, whether they wanted to or not. He's forced
hard not to.
just because of what he's done. So yeah, a lot of it is scheme, but yeah, like what Kenny said, he's just a fighter. He's a winner. He's clearly a guy all these other players want to play for. So it's been huge to see him have this turnaround this year.
What's been, the defense was the talk of the town initially. What's kind of been the chink in the armor that's made it not be up to the hype that it was getting initially?
It's a couple of things. You look at the defensive end position with McGuire graduating and going into the NFL, Coleman running out of eligibility. These were 2 solid guys who'd been around for a while. I know Coleman did transfer into the SEC. It was only his first year with Mizzou. He looked good. Trajan Jeffcoat left for Arkansas. A lot of holes opened up there. They moved Darius Robinson out to his natural position at defensive end. He's battled some injuries with the calf issue. So maybe just some trying to get used to those defensive end positions being a little better. We haven't really seen much from the defensive tackles. This was like a position group coming in, one of the more loaded ones in the SEC. Christian Williams transferring from Oregon, Jaden Jernigan from Oklahoma State. There were some big names, and we just haven't really seen them put much pressure. Another guy, Josh Landry, coming from Baylor, who had a couple plays here and there, but you're just not seeing a lot of pressure up front. Linebacker position. Tyron Hopper, who came from Florida, looked unworldly last year. He looked amazing.
He's a beast.
He's missing tackles. I don't know the actual missed tackle rate, but he's up there with some of the most missed tackles in the SEC. Another thing that just really sticks out to me right now is the safety play. I
saw the numbers on that.
Joseph Charleston last season was just a gym rat. He was watching film, he was doing everything he could. And he was a captain out there without the captain's patch. Everyone listened to him. And with Martez Manuel gone, Dalen Carnell steps into that star position, more of the hybrid corner safety look. And he's had some issues as well. He had a DPI against LSU. He missed an open sack that he could have had as well. It's just a couple of things there. And there's just the safety room as well was another one loaded with some talent and some experience. And they're just getting exposed.
Yeah. I mean, this defense gave up, 130 plus rushing yards to 2 players on LSU last week. I know Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels, but, the run defense is definitely a real concern, like Kenny said, with that defensive line. And yet Tyron Hopper, like, for all the good he gives you, our third co-host Peyton likes to just call him the king of missed tackles every week because there is play after play you can go back and watch where he'll have either a sack or a run will go for maybe 2 yards that then gets broken open because he just glides right by him. And yeah, a couple big plays too at this secondary. It's been a little bit strange. Luckily, Chris Abrams-Drain has maintained like his good form. He had 3 picks in 3 games leading up to LSU. So, they've had Rakestraw's still been pretty good at corner as well. But yeah, there's definitely some miscues we weren't really expecting for sure.
Yeah, and Rakestraw's out this week. Who are the guys who are going to be filling in there? And just to give context to what you're saying, because the safety stuff is exactly what I saw. 33 per Pro Football Focus, 33 catches on 42 targets given up by those safeties for 385 yards, 7 touchdowns. And what stood out to me, which is hard to believe, is no pass breakups or interceptions. So, yeah, I see why there's been some issues there. Those are the numbers.
I always find it interesting when a team – when you have an offense that passed the ball extremely well,
right?
On that same team, their defense doesn't defend the pass very well. Typically, you see the opposite. Like you'll see like a Lincoln Riley team or like one of the old Mike Leach teams where they can defend the pass, but they have trouble defending the run because they see so many different variations of pass game every day in practice. So I always find that interesting. But I always like Drink's offense, man. I think his offense is very versatile, very, diverse in scheme. Very, there's a lot of eye candy. So he produces a lot of eye violations for the defense. Just very, wide open. As a quarterback, I like to see it because I think he creates a lot of wide open throws for his quarterback. They do a good job of scheming teams and getting guys open. So I'm anxious to see how that looks against Kentucky. I think Kentucky's going to come with a certain level of intensity this week, obviously after what happened last week. However, I do think Missouri's offense is extremely well coached. They're extremely talented at quarterback. I think that, Luther Burden is probably, definitely top 10 receivers in the country.
Right now, he's number 1.
Yeah. So, as far as production, he's definitely number 1. Yeah. But I definitely think he's just talent-wise, he's one of the best receivers in the country, no doubt. Yeah. So I think, it'll be a good matchup, man, because I do think Missouri's a really good team. There's probably, at least the one game that I watched of them, and that was the LSU game on offense. They look like one of the best offenses in the country from a schematic standpoint and from a, can we scheme the defense open and get our best receivers that he's going to get the ball and we still can get him open. I think that's genius. That's always the mark of a good coordinator.
One thing I'll throw a couple things out there just like while we're still talking about the Mizzou offense to like maybe look for on Saturday is like the refreshing thing. And I said this multiple times on our show, like you'd watch the teams like Georgia or Tennessee or Alabama when they're at their best, like they make explosive plays happen, out of nowhere with their scheme. And Missouri hadn't done that until Kirby Moore, kind of came in. And then, it was every game, the first quarter, they would take a deep shot, score really early, usually on like a long pass play. So that's something that like we kind of expect now for in terms of how they start their games. And then just the other thing is like with this offense, then there's been a nice balance. And I'll throw a name out there. Kenny talked about Brady Cook. He hasn't been running as much this year. We've seen the injury stuff. But they've had some nice balance on the ground game with Cody Schrader. And he's someone who like can definitely make a huge difference in terms of, if that passing attack gets slowed down. Kentucky has a great defense. And if they do their job to slow that passing attack down, it'll be up to Schrader to kind of provide that balance. And he's been electric in a couple games and just like a huge help to sort of create that balance between the deep shots they've been able to take now with this receiver core. They're able to hand it off and make the run at least like a decent threat for teams. And that's been hard to stop.
I wanted to circle back just real quick. I know Aaron brought this up just briefly about the defensive backs and the cornerbacks who's going to step up for Rakestraw. Of course, Chris Evans-Drain is the name to watch. He's getting hype from everywhere. He got hype last year as well. Some other guys that maybe seeing a little bit more playing time, of course, is Drayden Norwood, who transferred from Texas A&M 2 years ago. He saw a little bit of action last year as a redshirt freshman. Wasn't really that active, but he's kind of stepping up more in that nickel corner role. Another guy that's really stood out to me is Marcus Clark. Since he's been on campus last year, he was a guy who they didn't have any more scholarships. They said, come here, we'll get you a scholarship next year. He paid his own way, worked his way to the team after playing at Miami, late transfer as well. And he worked well into that defense right away. Of course, he knew Blake Baker when Blake Baker was at Miami as a linebackers coach. Another guy to maybe keep an eye on. He had an interception not a couple weeks ago. I think he almost had a second one as well. So he can be a little bit of a sneaky guy in that secondary.
Good stuff. I got to ask too, the name of the podcast, Unwritten Rule. When I saw the follow, at first I was thinking, it's a baseball podcast. I'm like, Unwritten Rules. So how did that come about? And just in the description, y'all say you cover Mizzou with a little comedic flair too. So what's the comedy that you do in addition to covering Mizzou athletics?
I guess I could start this with the name. Back in 2020, we were still at the University of Missouri, and we had a radio station there called KCOU 88.1 FM. We started a show there. At around that time, Fernando Tatis Jr. got into an argument with the Rangers with the bat flip he had. And so we were like, let's talk about the unwritten rules of the sport and kind of break them down. And it kind of just turned into more of a comedic sports show in that sense. And we kind of ran with it for the next 3 years at school. We had some basketball players come on. We had the president of the school come on. So we got some success there. And then now we're with Believe.
Cool. Yeah. And then the comedic part. So we do Mizzou stuff. Obviously that's the main bit of our show. And that's I think ironically where we'll often take ourselves the most seriously, but we try not to take ourselves too seriously. We'll crack jokes and stuff. And then we like to talk a lot about just the national sports stuff, things going on. And we have little segments within our show, we call them quick hits, and we'll do our jersey of the week, and that's where we can kind of joke and banter. But obviously with some of the frustrations that Mizzou gives you too, you kind of just have to joke to get through it. So that's a little bit of the comedic. That's been an exception this year, I will say. Yeah. But we just like to keep it light. We like to have fun and be ourselves. But that's kind of where it comes from. Is that the first time I've ever been asked that, Kenny? I don't know if anyone's ever asked that.
I mean, it is an interesting name, but it's the first time anyone's ever asked.
Hey, did you say president of the school came on?
Yeah,
yes.
Moon Joy.
Twice.
You said that rather casually, man.
Oh, trust me, that was I don't think I can speak for Kenny and our other host, Peyton. When we were on the radio, I don't think we got nervous very much. And for that show all day leading in, I was not nervous. This is cool, whatever. Just be cool. And then 10 minutes before, I'm sitting outside the station in the school, Mizzou's official Twitter tweeted everyone listen to the show. we've got President Moonshoy coming on. And I was like, this is real now. It got real then. So we were like, yeah, that's when we got a little nervous. But yeah, it was very, very cool.
And, since, we got the game Saturday and you guys covered Mizzou, Jalen played out there, Aaron's covered games out there in Como. Who better to ask than you guys? But all due respect, y'all got the block M out there in the end zone. Yep. Why is that thing why is it rocks? Why is it a collection of boulders that make that M? I mean, it's not seats, but it's not grass. Why the rocks? I don't no disrespect, but I'm like, maybe y'all been asked this before, but I'm like, why they got all those rocks out there in the end zone?
Jack, you got it. I mean,
I honestly
behind it.
I honestly don't know. Off the top of my head, I know so when you're a freshman at Mizzou, you get brought over to the rock and you paint it. That's why it's so like bright, and that's like the one of those freshmen, like the school organizes it and you go. I looked it up. The traditional block M was carved from stone by a freshman class in 1927. And so they, I guess, memorialized that by putting a giant block M in the end zone. I know like the Mizzou had a couple stadium renovations over the summer, and like some of the Twitter accounts wanted to just make it like enormous, like triple the size of it, so that you could see it from space. That was like some of the edits and like photos came up there was people like the block M. It's sitting on the hill is a unique experience to do. But I still think I like it better than Dabo's, you just run and touch a rock and run down a hill. I think it's better than that. We at least have like our rock makes a shape and it's a bunch of them. I don't know. But yeah, we
actually have a piece of it right here.
There you go.
Got to bring it home one time after a game. So I actually have one.
Wow.
All the media members got to take it after their senior year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's like a permanent fixture. Like no matter how many more seats you add, that's not going anywhere, I guess.
I doubt it.
Oh, no,
I think it would have to take a lot. Yeah, I don't think they'd ever get rid of it. Yeah.
If you look at Memorial Stadium and Faurot Field, we can all kind of agree it'd be a great Big 12 stadium. It's not the best for the SEC. It's not massive like every other SEC stadium, but coming from the Big 12, it sure fit that conference.
Yeah, it's more so the weather for me that throws me off with the.
Oh yeah, it can get tough. I've never been to how would you describe it? Like typical game day at Kroger. I have not had the pleasure of going.
It's gotten a lot better over the years as they've gotten that thing going. I mean, the atmospheres have been this season. They've been incredible, honestly, especially the Florida games. So I think it is going to be on the cooler side this weekend. Usually, it doesn't really. You don't get the cooler games till November, but I think we're supposed to get a little bit of a cold front. I think it's going to be like 48 at kickoff. So it's going to be a little chilly. Could be some rain in the air. So it is a great match. When Kentucky's got the ball rolling and the team's playing well, it gets loud in there. But with that, at the same time, they got to maintain. Like if they have a drop off, it's not that the fans aren't passionate, but with that cooler weather, with some of the start times that they'll get, they won't always. It's not a given that it's going to be in that electric atmosphere. So we'll see what I think. Saturday's homecoming. I know it's a sellout, so I'm expecting a pretty loud one. And they have Alabama coming in late in the year. That'll be an electric one. Even if they were 1-11, that'd be an electric atmosphere. So I think it's going to be a good one Saturday night.
Jalen, can I ask, as a former quarterback yourself, can you recognize when, if you're watching like the NFL or even college games, can you recognize if a QB can't play in the cold? Like, is there a tell, or like, I don't know, were you a cold weather guy? Like, did it ever?
Yeah, you definitely can recognize it. At least I can. Maybe, just because I used to be a guy who used to hate it, but I had to grow to like it. I finished my college career at Eastern Illinois, so you don't have a choice.
No choice.
Yeah, no choice.
But you definitely can spot it, and I know when I spot it. I definitely know when I spot it as a coach when I see the other team's quarterback struggle.
Yeah. Because
it's cold or his hands are cold or whatever. It don't get that cold down here, but you definitely can spot it. And now, there's for me, there were so many little things that I knew. And I had guys like Andre Woodson who used to kind of help me out in those situations. He used to give me little tips that just still stick with me to this day. that he played for the New York Giants, so he obviously had to play in some cold weather, even at Kentucky. So there are things that you can do. I'm not going to give them here because I don't want everybody to know. But it's like legit competitive advantages. Just things that most people don't think about that you can do that can help you out. But yeah, I wouldn't say I like playing in the cold. However, with heaters on the sideline, and you can't complain too much. And a lot of times you're in the game, you really don't feel it unless you're, my last year of college in 2015, we had a home game against EKU. The game was going to decide who was going to the playoffs, and it was snowing all morning. I mean, it snowed all day, nonstop. And we had like a 2:00 or 3:00 kickoff, and it was the field covered in snow. It was probably 23, 24 degrees or something like that. And I was like, man, this is this is what it's coming down to.
That's football weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they call it up there. It ain't football weather to me, man. I'm from Alabama. But yeah, it was but yeah, to answer your question, yes, you can definitely tell. And there are definitely things that you can do to kind of, combat the cold. I mean, y'all probably hear about the stories of people putting on Vaseline and people putting the little hot packets, or what do you call them, the hand packets. Put them in, people put them in their socks and gloves and cleats, and I know people who put cayenne pepper in there. I mean, it's just people go over and beyond. The Vaseline thing works because it kind of clogs your pores, where especially if it's cold and windy, you don't really catch the brunt of it. And they'll put a rubber glove on, rub Vaseline on, and put a sleeve over it. Or I know people who put rubber gloves on after they put Vaseline on their hands, and then put their receiver gloves over their rubber gloves.
Oh my gosh,
that's really good. But there's a lot of things that people do to kind of combat it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the glove thing. I remember last year walking on the field after the New Mexico Mizzou game last year, and it was sub 10 degrees, and there was just rubber gloves everywhere. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what are they doing with all this stuff? And I realized they were wearing them underneath their gloves, which are
their regular gloves.
No, it helps a lot. It helps a lot.
I got to ask real quick too, since Jalen, you've been through this, and Kentucky went through it last week. The true road game thing, because Vanderbilt didn't count. We talked about this on your guys' show with them.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Construction site game.
It's different this year. It's always been. It's not really a home field, but it's even worse for that right now.
So for Kentucky, last week in Athens was their first true road game, because Vanderbilt, it was mostly Kentucky fans there anyway. Missouri's played in St. Louis, neutral site, but in the state. You played at Vanderbilt, which doesn't count. This will be their first true road game. I'll say it, home game, true road game. Jalen, take us through. Does it change year by year? How does it affect you? Does it really affect you? Because you hear it every time the team plays their first true road game of the season. How will they handle it? How will they respond? How will they react, especially for the younger guys? So that'll be Missouri's first true road game coming up to a sold-out Kroger Field, just like it was Kentucky last week. How does that play into, the routine, the whole game day experience, and how did it affect you? Did it affect you?
Yeah, it definitely played a part, and not just the obvious crowd noise, but, I mean, just playing. I was a guy who I'd rather play away than home. I just enjoy playing away games, but for most people, especially quarterbacks, they don't, because the crowd noise, and it's just the added I don't know if you want to call it pressure, but it's just the added distractions of every other little thing. Like your routine is thrown off. I mean, every other little thing that you like to do. You're eating different food before the game, because a lot of the food is catered from someplace wherever the road game is. So the food may be a little, every little thing is different. And people don't really think about those things, but a lot of these guys are very, very routine in what they do. A lot of coaches are very routine in what they do. So when you're playing a road game, starting from the travel to the pregame meal to the night before, are you typically going? I know when we were at Kentucky, we used to go watch a movie the night before the game over by the mall. I forgot the name of the theater, but we used to go over there and do that. And now, do you do that away? You know, a lot of times you do, but sometimes you may go to a place where they may not have a movie theater, or the movie theater may be further away, so you got to drive further to go. It's just everything throws off the timing and routine, and coaches try to keep it consistent, but it's hard to do that. Now, game day, you know, you got situations like Vanderbilt used to have an extremely small locker room where I can spread my arms and touch the back of the locker room and the back. You know, and it was extremely, I mean, you just, every little thing. And then once you get to the game, obviously the crowd noise, communication may have to change, snap count may have to change. I never forget my last year playing college ball, my last game, we were in the playoffs playing Northern Iowa. They have a dome, and we were having to change the snap count during the game because we couldn't hear. And they were on, you know, they were on fall break, so they didn't have everybody at the game. It was still packed, but it wasn't like it usually is in those type of games. I mean, obviously playoffs, big game, FCS football. Yeah. And we couldn't go on verbal cadence. We had to go on signal. So I had to kick my leg, or I was throwing my hand down. The guard had to look back and tap the center and all of that stuff. So, and I messed it up a couple times, and we got penalties. It was twice where we got penalties because we messed it up. We screwed the snap count up. And that was caused by a crowd that was just rowdy. You know, they were a good team. They were ranked pretty high, extremely rowdy crowd. And you know, we had 2 penalties that cost us because the crowd played a part in the game. So it's a lot, man. There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, you got GAs and, you know, support staff that try to get these big speakers before the game on Thursdays and Wednesdays at practice. And I mean, they're about 5 yards behind the quarterback at practice, and they're blasting, you know, all these fight songs and, you know, all types of stuff. So we got to work on the community. It's just a lot. There's more that goes into it, and it throws off certain things, and it throws off your basic routine a little bit. So that's why playing road games are so tough, and let alone you're playing a team like Georgia, who has NFL talent everywhere, you know, and they have however many people in that stadium.
Yeah, 90,000 plus.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable.
Go try that, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Georgia's got to go to Vandy this week. You know, how will they respond?
More like how will Vandy respond?
I don't know. The thing I'll add, at least for the Missouri perspective too, is and Kenny, I think, can back me up here. Like with Drinkwitz especially. I mean, I think every game, you know, kind of feels like a first true road game because, you know, historically he has not been successful on the road. And this team in general has had some mishaps on the road. I don't mean to keep bringing up Vandy, but in 2019, you know, there was all these comparisons because Mizzou started out that season 5-1 and was ranked and seemed like it could go on a run, lost to Vandy on the road, season fell apart. And so, yeah, at least, you know, I think the way at least Mizzou fans approach it is with a lot of definitely trepidation because, you know, Drinkwitz has not been very good at getting his team, I guess, you know, in those routines that maybe, you know, that Jalen was alluding to. Like it's been a struggle, I think, generally on the road. But
gotcha. Well, fellas, tell everybody when you record and where they can find you and what you got coming down the pipe on the next episodes.
So every episode drops. We do Friday and Monday, and then we usually do a recap that'll come out on Saturday after every game. So you can find us everywhere. On Believe, we're on YouTube as well. So, you know, if you don't want to just listen to us, want to watch us as well, we put out shorts. We're on TikTok, Twitter. Believe Unwritten is our handle for pretty much everything. So we'll definitely have to reconvene too come basketball season. I know, Vinny, we asked you we got a basketball question in for you, but that's, you know, obviously Kentucky's Kentucky. So
absolutely appreciate y'all having me on the Unwritten Rule, and then y'all taking time to do the home and home thing and get the preview in for both podcasts. And are either one of y'all coming to Lexington this weekend, or Peyton, or?
Oh, I wish. No,
we're not making it this year.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it on TV. I do want to get to Lexington though. I think hitting every SEC stadium might be a a goal down the road.
Oh yeah.
Auburn's the best one. That's all I got to say.
Auburn
The
is
city
great.
of Auburn.
Don't get him
City of
started on
Auburn is
Auburn.
amazing.
He
I
loves
went-
bragging about Auburn. It's ridiculous.
I went there last year.
Ridiculous.
I can't say anything negative about Auburn.
I like Auburn too, man. I like it.
I do.
Gainesville was cool. I also
Gainesville's
like
awesome.
I'm with you, Kenny. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But fellas, like you said, we'll do it again. Basketball season. Y'all
good.
keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate y'all taking the time, and looking forward to Saturday. And we'll see what happens when the dust settles Saturday night.
Yeah, y'all too.
Sounds
Take
good.
care.
Thanks,
All
guys.
All right, man.
Thanks.
Jack Knowlton, Kenny Van Doren, The Unwritten Rule. Follow them at Believe Unwritten. And fellas, it was cool to chop it up with them. Real quick, just on the basketball, we had pro day. Big
We're just
Z.
gonna real quick. Are we gonna let the Stoops comments roll off, or are we
Oh!
gonna hit those real quick?
Hit them real quick.
Okay,
That's right.
because I don't need to be. I'll be quick. Because yeah, you want me to just go for it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just it was, to me, the fact it blew up the way it did is just hilarious. I just don't get it. Look, the caller, I understood the question, but that stat he brought up is really, I think, it's just you can't judge him off the way teams finish in SEC play. You play who's in front of you, first of all. I don't think anyone in Louisville right now is talking about the schedule. They're enjoying being 6-0, right? As they should. They should be celebrating that. So, and two, you got to factor in, you played some of those teams that didn't necessarily go for, at least win 5 conference games, still had really good seasons, went to bowl games. A lot of them went 4-4 in SEC play because they lost to Kentucky. So are you minimizing the loss to Kentucky, or like, is that really what you're doing? And then you got to take into account some of the Louisville teams he beat. I mean, 2016 was the Lamar team that, had playoff aspirations, so they got their butt whooped down in Houston. The 2019 Louisville team went to a bowl game and won a bowl game against Mississippi State. And that Mississippi State team that beat Kentucky, by the way. 2021 Louisville went to a bowl game. Last year's Louisville went and won a bowl game. Like, he's beaten some good teams. And then Penn State had a really good football team that they didn't sit any guys because of the NFL draft. They were all active, and they beat them. Iowa, same thing. Pretty good football team. Better offense that year than it was this past year and this year. So, look, he's won a lot of big games. He's gotten over a lot of humps that haven't seemed possible at Kentucky. I get fans. I will always side with fans for wanting more. You shouldn't have an aspiration to lose any football game. You should want to win every football game you play. But I think there is some context to what he's dealing with Georgia. I mean, Georgia, obviously the history of that program, the recruiting base they have. Jalen, of course, knows really well living down there, an amazing recruiting base, all the money in the world. And they just needed a coach to go in there and kind of just unlock the door. And Kirby Smart has done that and a hell of a lot more. And you had to deal with that just as you got Kentucky. I mean, think about it. Kentucky started their current 7-year bull streak the year that Kirby Smart took over. By year 2, Kentucky wins 7 games again in 2017. Kirby's in the national championship game. Like, there's some luck you've got to take into account. I will say the pony up thing, I get what he was trying to do. He's trying to rally the fan base and say, hey, look, if you want to take that next step, you got to be part of this too. And I get it. I don't think it was the right time. I mean, you just got your ass kicked, and I don't think any fan wants to hear it. But I understood what he was trying to do there. So I think it was a lot. I think he said some quiet things out loud. I think he was defending the job that he's done, because I think it deserves to be defended. And when all said and done, if they win on Saturday against Missouri, go into this bye week 6-1, no one's going to be talking about that. They're going to be dreaming about beating Tennessee in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, man. And like I said, what he said was the truth. Timing questionable.
Yeah.
But what he said was true. It is what 100%. It is. It is what it is.
And Kirby Smart basically went and said, yeah, we talked about NIL before the game. It's almost as if he was relaying the message that he talked to Kirby about.
Yeah. I had no issues with what he said, man. It is what it is. You try to, you got to pay for players nowadays. That's what he said. Now, the thing that that as a coach kind of it kind of, sometimes those type of statements can rub your team the wrong way because they're like, they get in their feelings. What are you saying? Are we not good enough? And, but, also those kids aren't stupid. They know that Georgia has more talent from top to bottom. It is what it is. So I have no issue with what he said. A lot of people were just in their feelings because of what just transpired last Saturday night. However, what he said was a fact.
I'm with you as far as the timing, probably, not good to say it after you lose 51-13.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I heard you say it on Tom Leach. You just said it now. You said the quiet part out loud. I believe 100%. That is true as well. Kirby wasn't sweating it, really. And I'll say that I'll give him credit. He didn't say pony up with the same energy as he did bring it on Jason. He got a little more fired up about the caller than he did. So he wasn't,
because that stat Jason used was so stupid.
yeah, it is true. That is the context, like you said, because some teams would have finished with a winning record had they beat Kentucky. I saw Justin Rowland reply to Jack Pilgrim with that, and that is true. But like I said in the group, you beat a Tennessee when they're good. That will shut that up. You get another opportunity against Alabama. We know they're going to finish with a winning record in the conference. Mississippi State and South Carolina, I don't know if they will finish with a winning record in the conference. We'll see what Missouri does as well.
Won an SEC West road game, and it's your last chance to do it, right? So
yeah, so you that stat is misleading, but you want to kind of take that next step and beat a team that's is gonna it'll quiet all this down. Just like beating Missouri will quieten all this down.
Yeah,
beating Tennessee when they're good, if they go 5-3 or 6-2, that'll quiet a lot of this down too. Because you beat Tennessee a couple times, and thank goodness. But 2017 they went 0-8 under Butch Jones.
Yeah,
they didn't win a conference game. 2020 you went down there, Jeremy Pruitt. It's a dumpster fire. So they've been trash. The couple of times you've beaten them. So you step up and beat a Tennessee, or you shock the world in Alabama and have 1997 all over again. That'll hush up a lot of this stuff too. So that's but I think it took off so much because he said it about Georgia, who is the team of teams in the country right now. They're the champs. You just lost to them by 40, and you're saying they're buying players, so they just kind of ignited the thing.
I think that would have been like if he just said that, then we're having a different conversation and saying what he said was wrong. But he spent the whole first part of the show giving Georgia every compliment in the book, saying that there's Georgia and literally he said Georgia's number one and everyone else is way down here. Like he was giving them a ton of compliments today. He talked about, trying to pass Georgia's like climbing Mount Everest. I mean, he's been extremely, if you weren't complimentary, Georgia, and was just like, yeah, they bought their players, then you sound like a baby. Like that's the facts. But the fact that I just think that whole clip, which is always going to happen with social media, I get it, was taken out of context. And, I'll defend him on that one. I think, and then I see people comparing it to the basketball thing. And I'm like, one, expectations are so much different between the two programs. It is what it is. If Kentucky basketball, didn't have the history, didn't have the success it had under, Coach Rupp, Coach Hall, Coach Pitino, we'd be having the same. We'd be giving them praise for winning one tournament game the last 3 years. But that's not the standard they want, and that's not the standard the fans are ever going to have. And then, with the Cal comments, people are like, well, Cal said the same thing. No, the problem with Cal's comments, I don't even think it was the fact he said we're a basketball school. I don't even think, in my opinion, it was that big of a deal. He brought up Alabama and Georgia. The big deal is he went on and said, I hope the football team wins 10 games. And that comes off as being it just comes off as demeaning what the success that they've had. So I've seen a lot of that out there. And I just think this whole thing is people, when you lose, are looking for reasons to be upset. And this was convenient.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the whole thing, getting back to the locker room, and look, Devin, you were in there, not us, but as far as, are they going to be like, oh, he's trying to get better players than us? Well, like you said, they know Georgia has better players. And to me, I don't think it's going to resonate or make waves in the locker room because he straight up tells you he's trying to recruit guys to take your job.
Exactly.
So that you already know if you ain't on your stuff, then you're gonna get passed by. So that to me, I saw some people say, "Well, where's the locker room?" Oh,
no, not gonna matter.
I mean, he kind of straight up with them about that, and they know that going in. Look, you brought in to take somebody's job. Somebody else is coming in to try to take yours. So that's
he just said it about Jeremy Flax last week on his show, saying that I went and got Jeremy's replacement, but Jeremy played so damn well and was motivated by it that he's our starter now. So
yeah. So that's not going to cause a problem in the amongst the guys, in my opinion, Jalen.
Yeah, like you said, he I can see how it can.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how it can with some guys that are in their feelings, but the majority of them, like you said, they all know that they're trying. The coaches are trying to out recruit their talent level.
Yeah,
that never stops. That's just the truth. They're trying to outdraft the talent level at the next level. I mean, it's just what it is. They're trying to out hire the next group of talent at somebody's corporate job. I mean, everything. Those kids are the age where they should know that. Like I said, you always have those that are in their feelings, though. That
and you know what?
They may take that message the wrong way, and bring that up when they decide to transfer. Coach,
exactly.
Exactly.
If they're butthurt about it, get in the portal. You have that opportunity now, and I don't think Deion Walker is going to be offended by it. I don't think any of the big names who know they're really good and know they're going to be on the. It's just it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Trevor Wallace, Deion Walker, they'll probably be.
They ain't worried about it.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So. Real quick, user pro day.
Yeah.
So I do roll the ankle.
Yep, and he never came back even to sit on the bench, so that was a little concerning. And then there was the quote from John Calipari on SportsCenter about that Aaron Bradshaw and Uganda and Yensa were 5 to 6 weeks going to be out. And so we'll hopefully get some more context on this when we get to media day and whatever. But my question and follow up to that, we didn't get a chance to talk to him today, obviously, but does that mean 5 to 6 weeks from right now they're back playing games? Does it mean 5 to 6 weeks from now they're back at practice? Or does that mean 5 to 6 weeks from the start of the season? Like there's a lot to kind of be uncovered. So I would say this, if it's 5 to 6 weeks from right now, they're going to be playing basketball games. That's about what we kind of thought, right? They might miss the first couple weeks of the season. Probably the one big game they're going to miss is that KU game on the Champions Classic. And then maybe they're back against Miami at the end of the month. But if it's 5 to 6 weeks from now, they start practicing, then you're talking about, okay, middle of December. And then if it's 5 to 6 weeks from the start of the season, then it's conference play. So it's hard to, I can't if I'm a Kentucky fan, it's like, well, what does that mean? Is my takeaway with that. But then the pro day itself, I don't want to demean it because it was a great opportunity for those guys, especially with all the scouts there. It was cool seeing Tayshaun Prince was there. He's obviously working for the Memphis Grizzlies. Darius Miller was there, so a couple ex-Cats, but they didn't do any of the measurement or combine stuff this year. It was kind of just scrimmaging, which is good for to get an idea of kind of maybe what they're going to look like, what they're going to try to do offensively. But it didn't, it wasn't where you get to see the crazy athleticism on display and all that fun stuff. So, obviously I appreciate them letting us watch and giving us access to that, but it was hard to really learn much from it. I think the only two things I could say were impressive were Jordan Burks, I thought looked really good for a 3-star guy that maybe isn't expected to have much of a role, but if those injuries present itself, they might need him. So I was impressed with how he played. Robert Dillingham put on a lot of weight and looks a lot stronger. So that was really cool. And other than that, there wasn't much anything else that we didn't know. Antonio Reeves can still hit threes. DJ Wagner's a damn good point guard. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So good stuff.
Big Blue Madness Friday. The blue-white game is
I will not be at that, but I'll be at that.
It's traveling. It's going to be at Northern Kentucky now. It was at Pikeville last year, so they're taking it around the state, which is cool. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, me too.
So
good.
I think that's covers everything. Women's
y'all
soccer is rolling. Congrats to them.
They've had a good year.
season. And what'd you say, Jay?
No, I said I just happened to come across the old Nerlens Noel crossing your boy. What's his name? What's his name?
Oh my gosh.
What's the kid? Stone Cold Willow crossing Stone Cold and duck.
Oh man!
And that was
blue court. At the blue court.
And the
they need to do that. Big Blue Madness has kind of been, if we're going to call it as it is, it's kind of been down the last couple of years. It's just the same thing, and I mean, obviously, it's a big night, whatever. I get it. But they need to do something to spice that thing up. I don't know if they have anything in store for Friday. I'm not going to be there personally. But whether it's an outdoor event like that cookout thing, that was so cool. Whether they do it one year at Kroger Field, if that's doable. I know some teams do stuff like that. I just think it would be really cool to spice it up, because after a while, when you do the same things, you're not getting the musical performances appearances with Drake. It kind of just is like it loses its luster a little bit. I'd love to see them spice things up and do something like that. That's a classic right there. I saw that video trending as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super classic.
For sure. Well, we shall see. We're rolling on. Hopefully we'll be back talking about Kentucky 6-1, taking care of Missouri. Appreciate all y'all's knowledge, AG's coverage, Jalen's knowledge, personal experience. Appreciate the unwritten rule cats for hopping on, talking some Mizzou, Jack and Kenny. So y'all check it out. We got the streaming, we got the audio, got to see a blue that puts it up on their site. Appreciate all that. And y'all go and subscribe too. Hit the little 5 stars, and that kind of stuff helps out. So we appreciate it if y'all take a second and subscribe to the podcast there on Apple Podcast or on YouTube, people subscribing. So appreciate all that. And for Jalen Whitlow and Aaron Gershon, my name is Vinny Hardy. We'll be back next week with another fresh episode of Believe in Kentucky. We'll see everybody there.